The UK is now sitting down at the negotiating table with the European Union and the United States to renegotiate its trade deal. So the question is, when will Canada pull up its share? The UK is in a post-Brexit transition period for the rest of the year where trade relationships will remain status quo. But what happens next year if there is no deal? Joining us with more on what this could mean for Canada is Adam Taylor, the president of Export Action Global. Adam, great to talk to you today. There's a large degree of political uncertainty in the UK. The Chancellor of the Exchequer has just resigned. A major cabinet shuffle is in order, but the UK is still one of Canada's most important trading partners. In 2018, we shipped nearly $17 billion worth of goods to the UK. So should we be looking to strike a bilateral deal with the UK right now?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of our top trading partners in not just in Europe, but in all of the world. It's our second biggest export market after the United States. So a bilateral free trade agreement with the UK in a post-Brexit situation is an absolute must for Canada and should be one of our top trading priorities currently.
All right, let's talk framework. Our trade with the UK is currently governed by the deal with the European Union ratified in 2016. It regulates tariffs and lifts barriers around labor mobility. What provisions should we be prioritizing in a bilateral deal with the UK?
Well, the obvious one is we need to preserve, after the transition period ends, we need to maintain duty-free access to the UK. So that needs to be the number one item we pursue and we secure. But there's all sorts of things in the comprehensive agreement with the European Union we need to protect. We need investment rules. We need to protect those. We need dispute resolution. We need regulatory harmonization where possible. So we need to preserve the ambition that we have with the UK right now through the Europe trade deal and then transfer that to a bilateral deal.
I've got to think, though, that both sides, both Canada and the UK, would be motivated to get a deal as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Both sides should want to get a deal done. At the end of the day, we are close trading partners, obviously. Our biggest trading partner by far is the UK in Europe. And so then they, in turn, have looked to the model that we have with the European Union as their own model with the European Union as they begin those negotiations. So both sides have some sensitivities, but both sides have far more to gain by securing a bilateral deal as soon as possible.
Yeah, let's drill down a bit into those sensitivities for a minute, Adam, because a lot of people have tried to draw parallels between the populist movement that swept Donald Trump into office and the sort of a populist vein that's been tapped in the Conservative Party in the UK. Could we see Boris Johnson taking a hard line with Canada the way Donald Trump at least looked like he was doing when he tried to renegotiate NAFTA?
I don't think so, not to the same degree. At the end of the day, the Boris Johnson government have been, from the get-go, fairly positive about free trade in general and not have been displaying that protectionist rhetoric that we heard from the Trump administration. So at the end of the day, I think they see that deepening trade and liberalizing trade and continuing to remove barriers is the way to go. Of course, there's always sensitivities in these types of negotiations. We have some, they'll have some. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot more to be gained by continuing to lower barriers and keep barriers lower once the transition period ends.
Lastly, Adam, color it in for me a little bit. We've been talking about $17 billion worth of trade. What do we trade with the UK?
Well, largely, Canada exports a lot of agricultural products to the UK, a lot of fish and seafood, a lot of grains, a lot of those types of traditional agriculture products and resources that Canada often is among its largest exports. At the end of the day, the UK bring a lot of services or want to expand their services trade into Canada. But at the end of the day, when we look at our entire exporting industries, we have a lot of exports going to the UK. As I mentioned earlier, the second largest export destination for Canadian goods after the United States. So there's a lot to be gained from Canada to preserve that duty-free access when we start to look at how to continue post-Brexit and post this transition period.
Hey, Adam, thank you so much. We appreciate your knowledge this morning.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.